I think we can start. So, hello everyone, and welcome to one of our AfriConEU Networking Academy webinars. Please note that we are recording this webinar and it will be uploaded on YouTube and on our project's website. So I hope you are okay with it. You will hear more about the project in a few minutes, but just to let you know that this webinar is not a standalone activity. It is part of a networking academy that encompasses several activities like webinars, masterclasses, workshops, etc. So our topic today is business intelligence and analytics, and we have an amazing guest who I will introduce later on. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Catarina Silva, and I'm a project technician at the Center for Business Innovation at Porto Business School in Portugal. Porto Business School is part of the consortium of the AfriConEU project, together with 10 more partners from 9 countries. Our role in the project has been program designers and project managers. Having said that, I will pass the floor to Richard from Outbox in Uganda for him to present you the AfriConEU project. Richard, are you there?
Hi everyone, how are you doing? I hope you can hear me. Okay, I think I don't have, just a minute. I need to grant Zoom permission to present my screen. So let me see. Has it come through? Can you see my screen? Let me try again. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. These days, data privacy and security is so tight. So it tends to mess up with some of the work to be done. So I'm here, I'm based in Kampala, Uganda. As I speak now, it's 4:05 p.m. So almost time after work hours, but it's good to join people from all over the world. I am the team lead at Outbox, and Outbox is one of the implementing partners for the AfriConEU project. So we are very happy to be part of this great initiative. This initiative is part of the European Union Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. We started it in Feb 2021, and our hope is that by January 2024, we are on course to close the project. That's assuming we don't have catastrophic events like COVID or anything else. So the AfriConEU is a very interesting concept, and part of why we love it is because, you know, it's this trans-continental networking initiative that's trying to build closer relationships between African and European digital innovation hubs. So at the core of it, really, for us, we are looking to invest in capacity building. We're looking to invest in knowledge sharing. We're looking to invest in networking, collaboration, and joint projects. And most importantly, see that our startups in the different DHIs are able to grow as a result of this. So we have both African and European digital innovation hubs that have come together to kind of build this transcontinental collaboration. So we have 3 key objectives through this networking academy. We have knowledge and experience sharing. This might look simple, but in actual sense, knowledge is one of the barriers to the growth of digital innovation hubs. There's been a lot changing on both continents in terms of how the digital economy and digital startups are supported. So we feel that this is a very key objective for us to achieve. The second is the partnerships that we seek to cultivate between the 2 continents, between DIHs and between the different actors in the ecosystem. that are meant to support the growth of startups. And then the third is through this initiative, what collective projects can we create and deploy that ensure that the young people, most especially women in our different economies, are able to build startups, but also have access to work opportunities that help them to grow. So we're close to 11 partners, as you can see, all over the continent. In Africa, we have Outbox from Uganda, we have Buni from Tanzania, we have Hyperspace and Emerging Communities Africa from Ghana and Nigeria, right? On the European continent, we have Porto Business School, we have Innova supporting on the project management, we have ATBN, we have Youth Makers Hub, we have Agri-Food Digital Innovation Hub, and Stimuli. And all these partners come from the UK, Slovenia, Italy, Greece, and Portugal. So it's a very interesting collaboration within the two continents. So the initiative is operating in a couple of phases, likely 5 phases. We started by taking a context analysis of the digital economy and the role of digital innovation hubs in their different ecosystems. And this gave us some very good understanding of the current state of affairs, which then informed how best we can build our networking academy. It was actually a validation to say, in regard to our proposal, are we moving in the right direction or not? What should we change? What should we keep? And so through our different engagements and participative design techniques, every partner took on a role in terms of how the AfriConEU Networking Academy will run, and I'll share that in a few details. Then now we are in phase 3, where we are rolling out, implementing, and also sliding into phase 2 to see how the community is partaking of what we are delivering and engaging on. And then later on, phase 5 is really very integral. I wouldn't look at it as a very separate phase, but everything is supported by the communication that is happening largely through our partner Youth Makers Hub. So really, I would say that we are now rolling out, and I'll share with you what we've done and where we are at now very shortly. So the Networking Academy, we have a couple of pillars. We have the capacity building flagship program, and then we have the trans-continental partnership development flagship program. So through the capacity building program, we are delivering 12 local workshops, and we said 12 local because they're delivered on the ground by the partners delivering them, inviting other partners to come in virtually or even physically, depending. We have 20 online sessions that we are delivering on different topics and 8 huge master classes. On the partnership development, it's really around brokerage, right? We had our internal brokerage event. We have 4 in-person boot camps that are coming up and 1 capitalization event. And through all this, we have our community has startups, entrepreneurs, and digital innovation hubs that kind of come together to partake of these engagements. So these are the themes around capacity building. We have the business development model theme. We have the technology transfer theme. We have the financial support theme, and we have the digital skilling and development theme. Through all those aspects that I told you, the webinars, the workshops, and the master classes. And then on the side of partnership development, we have the aspects of the common digital market. We cannot, work without seeing how best or how connected our startup ecosystems are. We have the aspect of digitalization and employment opportunities for the startups. We have the aspect of investments, and also we have the aspect of pipeline. How best do we find the digital entrepreneurs on these ecosystems that we could support in terms of building the partnerships? So this is our calendar that we've been implementing ever since we started. It's a mix of events on both pillars. As I speak now in April, this is where, as you see the arrow, this is a webinar on business intelligence and analytics, and we shall hear more about it, broken down into a webinar, a masterclass, and then we also have a local workshop on the technology valorization process. But in terms of partnership development, in July, for instance, we are coming together over 4 boot camps in Tanzania, Nigeria, Ghana, and Uganda, just focused on enhancing our partnerships and linkages as a consortium with different actors. So largely just follow us on AfriConEU.eu. We have lots of engagements coming up, and you must register. I think you saw the registration form. Lots of M&E in there, but let that not worry you. We need the data to make good decisions. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you very much, Richard, for your project presentation. So now it's finally time to focus on our webinar. Firstly, let me introduce you Pedro Morim. Pedro is an associate professor at Industrial Engineering and Management Department at FEUP, and also an invited professor at Porto Business School, lecturing courses on data-driven decision-making and supply chain management. In 2014, he co-founded LTP Labs, a boutique analytical-driven consultancy company, which applied advanced analytical methods to help make better complex decisions. He has recently supervised and conducted numerous national and European funded projects and co-authored more than 70 research papers about analytics, supply chain management, and retail operations. His undergraduate education and PhD degree are at Industrial Engineering and Management from University of Porto, Portugal. And now I will stop talking and give space to Pedro. Thank you very much for accepting this challenge.
Thank you. It's great to be here with all of you. Richard, thank you so much for the introduction of the project. It's quite interesting and thrilling. So congratulations on that. And so let me go directly to the topic that brought me to here, which is then what is really, this business analytics about, and how can business analytics, empower your business. That will be something to discuss now. Okay, so I'll discuss this topic for the next 30 to 40 minutes, but of course, let's try to make this more of a conversation. So jump in whenever you feel like I should stop and discuss something further. My first note is that actually, this notion of business analytics and business intelligence analytics, sometimes it goes into a lot of jargon, right? So some of you are thinking about, intelligence, insight, machine learning, ChatGPT, right? So the truth is that nowadays we are rather flooded with a lot of these topics, and so I guess my main goal maybe for this conversation is to try to give you some framework to think of how these techniques can actually be, organized all together, and how can they actually empower decision making? Because in the end, we all know that we are living in a world which is getting, more complex, more interconnected, more technological, but where I guess all these evolutions will place the human more in the center. I know this may sound counterintuitive, but we will be more and more called not to do, let's say, consistent, repetitive tasks, but actually to make more decisions. And so I like to think about business intelligence and analytics in terms of decision making. How can we actually leverage data and technology that explores that data to actually be able to do, better decisions in our day-to-day life? And if you think through, companies have, decisions that they have today to make at every second. It could be, so when I'm talking about every second, probably I'm mostly talking about, for example, deciding about the schedule of a workforce, or understanding how the route, which should be the route to actually drive products around customers. Or maybe it's about production planning. How do I set up and organize my production planning? But it might be about pricing or facility location. You can think about actually all the type of decisions that the company have to do. You can think of them being more strategic, meaning decisions that maybe you take once every year or once every 2 years, to decisions that you actually take, say, every second. Whatever the scope is in terms of the time frame that you are thinking for these problems, what all of these have in common, from facility location to facility layout to rostering or lot sizing, is that these decisions can be empowered by analytics. So meaning that you can use data and transformation of data to help you do that. So a common denominator for this is that actually you can improve the decision making. You can do better or worse production planning or better or worse pricing, depending on how do you leverage actually that asset, which is data, and the methodologies that go along with it. The truth is that, and from my experience, is that it's not just about the methodology. It's also about, of course, the methodologies have to be there and being able to perform, good regression or good optimization, but good operations research, which is a main core discipline around this topic. That's important. So a solid analytical approach is something relevant, right? So, but the truth is that, and I'll show you that this is becoming more and more democratized. So we don't need to be all PhDs in machine learning to be able to actually deploy some of these techniques. I'll show you in a while that. Of course, we need good quality data. That's, of course, an important thing if you want to use business intelligence to support your business, is that the quality of the data has to be there. But something that very often we forget is that we need to think about the problem. And this holistic perspective, how we think about the problem, that's very important. So let's say that you are in a pricing problem. Let's say that, I don't know, we want to do pricing for a shampoo. Well, understanding how that pricing decision will impact the whole business, what kind of indicators will it impact, is very relevant, right? So you need really to think through the business problem framing, thinking how you are actually impacting the whole business. And so the holistic perspective is something that I see missing very often. Another layer, and we have been seeing that discussion rising with the rise of ChatGPT, is also that there is a cultural change. Once we start to using more these approaches, more automatic, more empowered technological approaches that leverage data to empower our day-to-day business, we see that there is some issues in terms of cultural change. How do we have our society adapting, or how we actually having our company adopting a given solution? So to make this fly, I guess you will need, and just to wrap up, you need good, solid data, good analytics, but also not forgetting that we need to think through the problem and also make sure that we drive, the change management around the company. But that was a little bit theoretical. Let me go into practice. And the practice means that I see you using, and this is a framework that has been around for a while, but I think it's really helpful to understand the type of analytics that we can use in a company. So let's say that the most basic analytics that you can use is what we can call descriptive analytics. This is like, a dashboard. When you compile data from your business, say, let's say how sales and price has been evolved throughout time, and you put that on a beautiful Power BI or just an Excel with some nice graphs, we'll call it descriptive analytics. Why descriptive? Because this is mainly looking with the rear mirror, right? We are looking with the rear mirror and understanding what had happened. So what had happened, it's relevant, right? It can give you some insight, but it's very retrospective. That's the basic layer of business analytics work, okay? As you move on, what you may be asked to actually answer is, why did it happen? Why did my sales drop? Why did my prices increase? So this is also looking through the rear mirror, but now you are improving actually on the quality of the information that you are obtaining through these analytics. So let's say that you use, let's say, a regression. You have a lot of different demand points. You have seen your sales of your shampoo over the years. You have used different prices for the selling of that shampoo, and you want to understand how does price impact demand. well, you see that your knowledge about your business is improving, because this is not just about, sales went up or down. It's about, for example, understanding what is the relevance of price to the sales going up or down. And you may obtain different conclusions. My product is very elastic. When I decrease price, sales increase a lot, or my product is not that elastic, meaning I can increase or decrease price and basically the sales are the same, or maybe it has no relation at all. I don't know. It has to do more with the price of the competitor than actually to the price that I actually set. So you see that we are, when moving from descriptive to diagnostic analytics, we are improving our perception of reality. But still, as I said, it's about looking through the rear mirror. What we want as managers is understanding what I need to do tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So predictive analytics would be something more of interest. In that case, you are not just worried about what happened, why did it happen, but what will it happen? So tomorrow, if I decrease by 10% the price of my shampoo, and if I make a given promotion, or if I, have it in a spotlight in a retail store, how much will my sales increase? So these type of algorithms, of course, are more interesting because they are already informing you what will happen next. So we are not looking anymore through the rear window, but we are looking with the forward, right? So we are looking forward and we are seeing what will happen. So this has a more predictive type of nature. But of course, in businesses, we just don't want to know what will happen. What we want is to act on that reality. And acting on that reality, that's another layer, right? So as a business manager, you can look at what will happen and then you can take your own decisions, or you can leave your algorithms also to help you to make decisions. So when we look at Amazon, for example, they are changing prices 12 times a day, maybe. And of course, there's not a person that is changing these prices manually. No. What happens is that they have prescriptive analytic engines that basically understand what happens if I do A, B, or C, and they will automatically understand what is the optimal pricing decision that I do for, optimizing whatever indicator am I looking at. And that indicator can be, of course, revenue, it can be margin, it could be market share, it could be of a very different ways, right? Or very different forms. But you see that is in this ultimate layer, we are already using the algorithms to drive our decisions, right? To help us actually to make the final decision. That's the ultimate layer of what we actually can do with business analytics. So let me give you another example. I'm getting away from retail. And for example, let me look to asset management. It could be a wind turbine, it could be an offshore petrol platform. It could be, in business, you have to take care of your assets, especially if these are capital intensive industries, okay, like commodity or process industries. These are the type of industries in which asset management is right important. So let me show you what these descriptive, predictive, diagnostic, prescriptive analytics look like for this context, which is very different from the one that I described to you, which was pricing of shampoos. So let's look to this one and see that, for example, in terms of descriptive analytics, what you could have is understanding, for example, the time between failures. Imagine that you have a wind turbine. What you may be interested in understanding is what is the mean time between failures. If I have a mean time between failures, so if my failures are happening very often, there's this kind of an alarm, right? If my failures are happening once in a while, maybe I'm more relaxed. So I can look through the rear mirror and understand what has been these indicators. Again, it could be mean time between failures, maybe mean time between recoveries, how fast do I recover? But that's the same idea, right? I'm looking and I'm understanding what happened before. Once I know that, I can actually evolve my reasoning, and maybe I can have my algorithms not just depicting a picture of how the failures have evolved, but understanding what drove my failures. Okay, and that might be related to the wind class. Maybe when there's a lot of wind, there's there's issues there, or the lightning frequency. If there is a lot of lightning, there's maybe a likelihood that the mean time between failures will increase. Maybe it has to do with who built the turbine. It has to do maybe nothing to do with the wind or with the lightning. It has to do with who built the turbine. Well, that's the kind of business questions that you can ask in predictive analytics stage, in this journey of analytics, right? And again, here we are still looking through the rear mirror, but the truth is that once you know why something happened, you are in a much better position to understand what will happen. Say that you bought a new wind turbine for your field, and you know how the wind will be, you know the lightning, you know the power class, you know the manufacturer. Well, you can predict what will happen to that wind turbine. So I think that's very interesting, right? Because this can actually already inform you of maybe how you will move around with your field teams to have the best maintenance schedule. Well, but as I was said before, what you want is actually to move in that direction with algorithms, right? So one way to do that is actually to have this prescriptive analytics helping you to do this. This is another layer in which actually what you are doing is to use your algorithms, not just to tell you what will happen, but what should you do. That's very powerful, right? Because now it's about having the algorithms telling you, hey, you should send team A to that turbine or team B to that one, such that you reduce the downtime, for example. And downtime is, of course, very relevant, right? Because we don't want to have my turbine down, right? I want it to be, as useful for as much time as it can. So you see, when we are evolving through this ladder of algorithms, the power and the value that they are delivering increases. Unfortunately, what we see is that very few companies are using this prescriptive type of analytics, what I would call here more transformational analytics. Actually, by a recent report from Gartner, we see that only 3% of the companies are using analytics, and in the case of asset management, for example, to schedule automatically their teams. Only 3%. 30%, however, are using predictive analytics. That's already good, right? We see that a lot of companies are already having some engine to help them understand what happens if I do X or Y. So, of course, this has already a lot of value. But you see, as you are moving through this ladder, more value can be harvested because you are empowering more and more your decision. Of course, we are humans. We have very good knowledge of what goes on and etc. But as the world gets more complex, we need to rely more and more on these approaches to help us to navigate all the uncertainties that we have for decision making. So the message here is like there's a journey. It starts with descriptive, it goes until prescriptive. Only a few companies are using prescriptive. There's quite a few already using predictive on algorithms. But let me tell you also another good news is that recently, and there's only 1 year this paper, I saw finally a paper that's showing actually that just building a report, just having a dashboard that helps you to understand how your business has been going, that has already delivered value. So scientists have went into the field and they have demonstrated that just by having a report systematizing the key metrics of your business, that already improves decision making. And of course, improving decision making, meaning improves your bottom line. So these guys, for example, they show that just having a dashboard improved on average revenue between 4 to 10%. So we have to think, if the most basic business analytics technique, which is descriptive analytics, improves 4 to 10% revenue, how much do you think predictive and prescriptive layers can improve, right? So there, I think there's a very optimistic note on this, right? So there's a lot of, opportunities for business to grow in the way they are taking decisions. And I started to talking with you about Amazon. I gave you this example. Amazon, of course, is a great example of using analytics. And of course, they actually are, I would say, very extreme on this. They even, for example, they promote people based on prescriptive engines that take into account all the data about the given employee, and they understand if this person should move up or down. So basically, they are trying to put the algorithm to automate and to bring intelligence to most of their business, and to have the human as the maestro, as someone that is actually, more worried about value-added activities. So kind of an autonomous vehicle metaphor, right? In which you can maybe do other things while the car is driving left and right. And I think this is very powerful as a metaphor, right? Of us thinking about how we can actually leverage all this technology to get us focused on what really can drive more value, which is much more the analysis part, the decision making, and not so much trying to feed, in our brain all the complex reality. What we should do is to think through the reality and think how we can model that reality, but then let the technology take care of all the complexity. And that's a very different paradigm. So hopefully by now you understand that there is this, ladder, this journey of business analytics. And what I think would be interesting is just to clarify for you how does the concept of artificial intelligence, matches with everything that I said so far. Because in the end, these are quite synonyms, and we have been using these for much longer than it might resonate at the beginning. So I think for a while with ChatGPT, we all think that these just started, in November last year, but that's not really true. And let me start by what is the definition of artificial intelligence by OECD, which is basically a machine-based system. So let's say a computer program that helps you to, make predictions, recommendations, or decisions based on a set of objectives. So we humans give objectives to the machine, and she's able to answer through that machine, through that set of objectives. So, of course, this influences the real world, but also the virtual environment, right? And maybe more the virtual environment than the real world when we think about how, for example, in social media and all of these, and streaming services, every digital service that we see is flooded with this type of approaches to actually, smooth and streamline, and of course, improve the objectives of the companies that are ruling these worlds, right? These digital worlds. But what I want to tell you next is that actually you have been using artificial intelligence through all your life. So when in our old ERP systems, we had, for example, decision rules to understand what I should do in a given situation. Let's say that you own maybe a car rental, a car company, as a dealer, for example, and you want to understand if you should provide a loan or not provide a loan. Well, you probably have a couple of decisions to govern that, a couple of rules to govern that decision. Say, if credit score is good and the car that the guy is buying is not that expensive, well, then most likely I will, let the guy go, right? If the loan is small, I will let the guy go. Or, if the guy has been paying, but he has, he's getting a lot of money also, so he has good credit history and a good income statement, well, I'll probably loan to the guy, big or small amount is fine because I have, I'm on the safe side. Of course, if the income is bad and the credit history is bad, most probably I will not loan to the guy in any given case. So when we were, bringing, and we are in a way in various different businesses, still having our decision rules to guide our business, we are using artificial intelligence. Maybe not very sophisticated, right? But still, I want you to think that this is the first form of, of artificial intelligence. What happens there is that the computer is working as an expert system, right? You wrote the program. You said it's like an if statement in Excel. If the guy earns a lot and if he has a good credit history, the output is okay. So I wrote the program, I got the data, and then I let the computer make the decision based on what I told him to do, right? So I will call this old AI. right? In old AI, you basically write the rule, you write the program, and then you let the computer give you the output. But you see, you have written the program. What we have seen is that as business gets more and more complicated, as we want to personalize more and more things to our customers, and of course that happened a lot in the marketing interface with customer relationship management programs that needed to be more and more personalized. Of course, Amazon, Netflix are good examples of that. And that's where new AI started to emerge. And in new AI, we don't pretend that we are able to grasp all the best business rules to impose to a given customer. We don't know, to a given business. We don't know. It's just too complex, the world. So we do it differently. We kind of reverse the problem. What we do in this case is that I'm telling the computer the result and I'm giving him the data. Let me give you an example. Let's go through Netflix. You all have used Netflix or some streaming service. Imagine that I want to understand what is the best recommendation for me to give to, Richard. Well, I can look through the history of what he has actually seen, right? I could look through the output. I could see that he saw, Game of Thrones, or he saw, I don't know, House of Cards. He has seen different TV series, right? So I can see the output. I know what he did. And maybe as a data, I want to use what did he have in the Netflix homepage? What were the shows that were showing there? You see? So maybe I can train the algorithm by showing what did Richard saw in the homepage, the different shows that were available to him, and what was the result? Where did he click? And I could tell the algorithm to learn. Hey, maybe not just with Richard, but with Candice, Leonardo, with everyone. Let's bring 1 million customers. And let's say, look, listen, and I'm telling that to the computer, listen, look to what these 1,000 people did or 1 million people did. You see? And what is this action? Is that understanding what was available to them in the homepage and what did they select? And now I'm asking the algorithm, can you learn? Can you understand what drove the decision? And maybe the algorithm will understand that the people just get to choose the first thing that they saw. Or maybe they scroll down 3 and 90% of the times they will click on the first one. Or they will click on the one that is called recommended. Or if it's Saturday night, they click on a romantic movie. But if it's Sunday morning, they watch a sports show. So you will not, superimpose what you think happened. No, you let the computer decide on that. And that is a very different approach. So before, what we had, as you recall in that loan example, we had we telling what the program is and we telling the date, and then we see the output, right? So we told the program, we told if it's on Saturday nights or Sunday mornings or whatever. Now it's the other way around. I throw in the data and I let the program tell me what goes on. That's much more interesting because I'm not superimposing my biases. I'm letting the computer understand what is the best recommendation. And once I know that, then I go through the same cycle. Now I know that people prefer on Saturday night X or Y and on Sunday morning Z. And I give that program, new people are coming in, and I'm outputting that to the customers, right? So it's a much more flexible way of making decisions. Let me give you maybe an example that goes away from the day-to-day business. Imagine that I'm separating sea basses from salmon, just to give you a feeling of how this works. Imagine that I have a machine that takes a photo of each sea bass or each salmon that is passing on my production line, and I want to separate both. By the way, they have different prices, so I want to make sure that I'm separating them well. So let me show you this example of the second wave of this new artificial intelligence to show you how it works. What we first do is to try to understand what are the features, what are the variables that I should use to separate one fish from the other. And you may all guess that, sea bass and salmon, they are similar, but they have maybe different widths or different length or different color. or maybe slightly different shape. So you can think about different features, different variables that could be used. Let me give you an example. Imagine that I'm using the lens of the animal. You see that I have in salmon, I know this is a little bit weird, but in salmon, I have the sea bass, and in red, I have the salmon. And if I'm just using this variable, length, which is what I have here on the x-axis, you see that if I cut around the 15 centimeters, this is probably inches actually, 15 inches, I'm able to split more or less. I see that bigger animals usually are sea bass and smaller animals are salmons in this case. Is it good? Well, I think I will lose a lot of money, right? Because very often I will take a salmon as a sea bass and vice versa. So this is not working so well. So the algorithm did not learn enough by just using this variable. What I need to do next is maybe change variable. Maybe I'm using the lightness of the animal, if it's lighter or darker. And what I see, for example, if it's actually, if the lightness is higher, I see that I'm able to actually split better the sea bass from the salmon. It's not perfect, no, but with one variable, I'm not making too many mistakes, only these ones here at the bottom. A little bit around the 6 or 7, or I don't know what is the unit of this, but when the lightness is there between 5 and 6, I get a little bit confused, but otherwise I'm fine. Maybe I can improve this by bringing, for example, another variable. Maybe let's use lightness and the width of the animal. So now I'm having two variables. So for each variable, I have here a dot. A dot represents a fish, right? And you see that I'm able to split my population of salmons and sea basses very accurately if I have these two variables. So there's a couple of salmons that I'm getting mistaken because they are sea basses, but otherwise it's quite fine. So that's how these algorithms are learning. You see, they saw the output. Is it a sea bass or a salmon? We are giving him data, more and more data, and he's able to extract, to learn what matters for decision making. You see? But okay, this is how you can actually be a little bit, it could be a little bit too much, right? Because sometimes this can get too biased. If you are starting to put too much variables in there, this can get a little bit crazy. And you don't want to be too greedy because in the end, these results will also generalize not so well. But I won't talk too much about that, just to give you the impression that it's not as much data as possible because things can get a little bit out of control. And still, I think it's time to make a pause and just to tell you that I'm advocating a lot for, decision-making through data, etc. But sometimes this can be tricky. Let me just share again. This can be tricky in the sense that you might actually get too greedy about the data. And there's a great book on that, Noise by Daniel Kahneman, that can tell you a lot about it. It's a big book, so I'm just showing you a small clip that kind of resumes what this book means. Let me show you.
Peter, come take a look at this.
Mr. Daniels.
Mr. Daniels.
Look at this. What's this?
The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
Clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, it's Walter. We're back.
Yes, sir. Molto tracking. More shifting.
I need more trees. More trees? I'll get you more trees.
Hey, take a look at wood pulp.
Whoa. Everything you got on wood pulp right now.
He really loves that thing.
So you see, there's a lot of examples in which data can actually lead us to the wrong direction too. So I just want also to make that, to give that warning, because we might get too carried away. And these are other examples and things cannot work so well. So I've told you about the second wave, but let me tell you that there's actually a third wave of artificial intelligence that we are being deployed more and more. And that is called deep learning. Deep learning has a nice ability, which is it's able to actually, craft new variables on its own autonomously. So you don't need to say, hey, check, let's go to the salmon case. Check lightness, check width, check length. No, this is all the raw data that I have. And take a look to this and tell me what is the best thing to predict something. For example, if it's a salmon or not. So if in the second wave, usually you go through the data, let's say that you have all the data on the pre-processing of salmons and sea basses, and you kind of say which variables are what and how, then you let the algorithm run. What you have in deep learning is something more autonomous. You give the raw data and you tell, hey, find where are the cats here, for example, okay? And you will find what are the features to understand if there is a cat or not a cat in an image. And a cat is a good example because it's one of the most classical tasks for a deep network, which is to find if there is a cat on an image or not. And you see, this is another layer because we as decision makers, we are not even giving the variables that could be used. We are just giving the data. And this is very interesting because you see there's a big discussion on how, if we should understand more or less as an algorithm works, right? So in the third wave of AI, this deep learning type of algorithms, we don't even understand what goes on. And of course, in the first wave and the second wave, we understand it better. I think all our feelings is that we need to understand to actually trust the algorithms. Let me just tell you that there is very recent research, so this is from January 2023, that show us that when we don't understand, we trust it more. I know this sounds super awkward, but these researchers from Harvard Business School were able to show that actually that's how it works. So if the output is good and if we don't really understand what goes behind, that works fine for us, right? And we actually see that a bit with ChatGPT. No one really knows how ChatGPT works, but it seems like we trust it a lot. If you haven't tried, you have to try it. And you will see that it seems quite human and the output seems quite reasonable. So it's very interesting to see that some of our previous prejudices, somehow they are being shaken by this new wave of AI. Good. I'm ending my message today, but I want to make sure that I show you that this is, more and more possible for you to use than you may think at a first glance. So let me share with you my screen and showing you something that Google has developed. This is very interesting, and I'll have to take out my screen for a while just to make this work for you. So what Google allows you to do is to actually have an algorithm that allows you to train your own second generation artificial intelligence algorithm. So let's say that you want to understand, for example, if someone is you wearing glasses or not wearing glasses, let's say not glasses. Okay, I'll grab my sunglasses here. And what I'm giving to Google here is data of someone wearing glasses. I'm giving, 100 images for Google to learn how does a person with glasses looks like. So let me now give Google images of what a person without glasses looks like. And you see, we are giving the data and we are giving the output. What I'm asking now is Google to learn. I'm telling Google, please take a look to what goes on here with these two different sets of images and try to see what are the variables, right? What is there to describe someone with glasses and someone without glasses? And you see that I'm doing this in less than 2 minutes. And you see that he has already learned. He's telling that I'm not wearing glasses now. And as soon as I put on my glasses, you see that it's quite good in understanding that glasses are actually what I'm wearing. If I put maybe the glass more or less, it gets a little bit confused. So all in all, what I wanted to show you with this example is that actually these type of approaches are more and more, you know, they are, sorry, no, it's not working, wait a second. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. So these type of approaches are more and more plausible to be used, right? So it's not like they are something too far away. They are being much more democratized. So I think that's the good news, and that's how I wanted to end up. So just to wrap up, there's very different types of analytics, from descriptive to prescriptive methods. You can answer very different questions with it. And of course, artificial intelligence is the core technique that power these different analytics methods. And they are being more and more democratized. So it's about you taking it to industry and making sure that you improve your decision making. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope I can answer any question or doubts that you may have.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for being here today with us. I'm asking the same question. Does everyone has a question for Pedro?
I can also leave here my email if there is any, question that arise when you think through these things. Just let me know.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Actually, I have a question. Maybe
sure.
It's a question for everyone. I'm gonna ask, what advice would you give to organizations that are just starting their business intelligence journey?
Yeah.
What do you say?
No, that's a perfect question, and I think that goes aligned with the idea of journey is very powerful, Catherine, and I agree that we should not strive to go directly to prescriptive analytics or more advanced things. I think the first advice would be to have a good descriptive analytics foundation going on. So good dashboards that allow you to see the quality of your data and that allow you to represent accurately what happened with your business. So that will be the first approach before jumping into more advanced stuff.
Thank you so much. I have a question here in the chat.
Yeah, I think Josephine was asking where the recording will be.
Okay, the recording will be in our website. I can leave the website here. It's AfriConEU.eu. I'm writing in the chat. So I have one last request for all of you. I'm gonna ask if you can turn on your cameras for us to take a family picture of this webinar, of this excellent webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catarina.
Yeah, this time I didn't forget about the family picture.
Yeah, I know, and thank you so much for this webinar. It was really good. Okay, so everyone smile.
Thank you all for this
Thank you very much.
amazing webinar. And I am a data analyst, so I'm coming from more traditional business analytics world, where I haven't got a chance to work with big data and machine learning that we have talked about how to leverage it and deliver description and also predictions for the organization. But that's definitely interesting. And I can see for the big enterprises, they have much more potential in this. That's very interesting. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
I just want to ask you to evaluate this webinar. I left the link in the chat, but I will left it again. Yeah, now you can evaluate. Thank you so much for all of us for being here with us today. Thank you, Pedro. It was an excellent webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Have a nice week. Ciao, ciao.
Have a nice week. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.